Neighbor tells you about the unstable man in the cul-de-sac who claims to have been abducted by aliens. And then there's the woman in town who claims to see Bigfoot all the time. Your boss, who you greatly admire, confides in you that he has started speaking with his wife daily when he gets home from work. She died 8 years ago. It's hard to believe this stuff, and you write these stories off as overactive imaginations. Are these people seeking attention, or are they a bit unstable? No matter what you think, if you're like me, you walk away wondering, what if that was true? The What If It's True podcast features stories by ordinary people like you and me. Something has happened to them, something so strange they are in agony unless they tell others. My name is Cameron Buckner, and the What If It's True podcast is available at whatifitstruepodcast.com and on all available podcast apps.
We're live, Mark.
Going live. I still love that intro.
Oh, I do too. I was going to do a Ric Flair intro for you. Rolex wearing, limousine riding, kiss stealing, wheeling, dealing. But I decided against it.
Yeah. Well, there's been a lot of people message me today, and I've been on the road all day.
Well, you got to quit sending out them shirtless pictures to everybody. Oh, okay.
So I will catch up with everybody as soon as I can. And man, you picked a great topic for tonight.
Yeah, we've had many discussions over the years about weather and how it affects activity, and we've experienced quite a bit of it because we seem to pick some sorry times to go. But we've been asked over the years, what about a full moon? What about this? What about that? And we have some answers that are based on experience that we've got in the field. It ain't the gospel, and it ain't just a solid pattern or anything, but it's just something that we have experienced out in the field as we went through it.
Speaking of gospel, that kind of reminds me of what Spencer Jameson put up on our page, and he put up a quote from Carrie Arnold, something that I don't know if Spence went back and listened to it again and wrote down exactly what he said, but this is so important. It has a lot to do with what our topic was last week, or some things that I talked about last week. And I would just like to read this Carrie Arnold's quote. And it says, "We don't know anything. There is a ton of conjecture, a ton of theories, and they may be all good ones. They may be right. The thing is, these people with influence, when people have influence and make these absolute statements with broad claims and put particular behaviors and give advice, when you have influence. And if you're wrong, it means being harmful. And really appreciate Carrie's viewpoint on that. I appreciate Spencer for posting it for everyone to read, and it's such a true statement. And there's, one thing that we have always said, that the more that we learn out there, the more that we realize how much we don't know. And that goes hand in hand with Carrie's quote. And I think it is very harmful when people of influence have a theory, and it may be a good theory, but when they put it out as fact, and then the next thing you know, the people that listen to this person and give this person respect, and there should be a lot of respect that goes out, but we've got to be careful that we separate fact from our own theories,
right?
Because it's it's just dangerous, and it causes a lot of strife out there. If one person says, well, a tree bow means this, and another person of influence says a tree bow means that, well, the next thing you know, you got bickering going on.
Oh, I agree.
And so I just wanted to acknowledge that. And we all need to be reminded, myself especially, I put the bullseye on me on that I have to be careful when I say something. And I try to always say that, in my opinion, right, this is what I think. And we should all be humble enough to be able to have that attitude.
Well, that's the trouble, the humility. Some people are not very humble.
Yeah.
But I agree. You and I have influence. We don't have 50, 100,000 subscribers where we're on here telling people, that we pull Bigfoot's big toe every time we go out in the woods or whatever. But we do have influence with the audience we have because they're listening to us. So, and you're right. We do try to say it's our opinion, or we experienced this one time. It don't mean it's going to happen every time, whatever. We do try to negate anything that we say as being, just 100% the way it is every time, because it's not. We went out to replicate some things that happened and nothing happened.
Yeah.
Over and over.
Yeah.
And every now and then we will have some luck with something. But I don't know. I agree with Carrie's statement that anybody that comes on the internet or writes a book or does a documentary, it needs to be done with humility, that they're not the know-it-all be-all of the subject, but some can't do that.
No, and I think about people that I have heard, that's been on shows, and I'm not talking about our shows, but where the host might ask a question, and it don't matter what question that host asks, that person is going to have an answer. And right. I just think, if you don't know, man, I'm real quick to say, I don't know.
Oh, me too. And that's my answer 90% of the time.
Yeah.
And the 10% is, I'm not sure, but it's happened.
It happened, and this is my speculation on it.
Right. But we know people that'll take event A and event C, and they'll fill in event B and say event B is 100% fact.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. You do have to be careful of this because, I mean, the Bigfoot community can't agree on what a Bigfoot is. They can't agree on what a Bigfoot does or is capable of doing. They can't even convince a non-believer but that they're real. So, yeah. I mean, what do we know if we can't convince somebody that don't even believe in a Bigfoot existing? We don't have enough evidence to prove it.
Right.
So, I don't know. Just keep writing the books. That's all I can say. Write them all day long. And the title to my book would be, in my opinion, I don't know anything. But anyway, so tonight we're going to give our opinions on what we know about weather and activity of Bigfoot from the times we've been out. We're just speaking from the experiences we've had. And some of the people may have had different experiences and similar weather conditions or moon phases or whatever. So we're just talking from our experience. And we'll start off with storms. I know from being a deer hunter that when any major storm or a cold front is coming through, before this front, the deer and other game are out feeding because they know they're going to be laid up during this storm for a day or two, whatever. So,
yeah,
a lot of people, and you know, the normal person's not going to go out in a storm and look for Bigfoot sign or anything. So, what's your opinion that a Bigfoot does during storms? We just had major hurricane come up through Louisiana, Mississippi that set all kinds of things wrong. Flooding, tornadoes, everything you could have in one big gollywhopper, I guess.
Well, when I was a little kid, we lived in Memphis, and we had a pet parakeet. And my folks were gone, and I was the only one in the house, and I was sitting there watching TV. I was probably about 12, and all of a sudden, that parakeet went berserk. In that cage, just went absolutely berserk, enough for me to get up and walk over there and go, what's the matter with you? You know, what in the wide world of sports is going on here? And
what did the parakeet say?
Parakeet didn't have to say nothing, because about that time we had an earthquake. And I mean, a big earthquake. And that's always just stuck in my mind, that animals know what's about to happen.
Yeah.
And whether if it's a storm about to come through, or a hurricane, or a tornado, animals somehow have that sense, and they will take shelter. And I don't see how Sasquatch could be any different. If bad weather is approaching, then they're not going to find some place to hunker down.
Yeah, I agree. And it's like the animals have a built-in barometer.
Yeah.
That they can just tell. And if a Sasquatch is as in tune with nature as they are, you would figure that at the very least, they could read the other animals to know something's coming.
Yeah.
We need to get prepared and get hid or head to, higher land, whatever. So I know Debbie and I, we invited some other folks at just one point to go out to the land between the lakes. Do you remember that? And a major snowstorm hit.
Yeah.
And our friends abandoned us like rats leaving a sinking ship. You remember?
I remember that, and I know you know what happened.
I do know what happened.
And
but that don't make it any more fun,
Because it was last minute having to cancel out, but I wasn't going to go off and leave my poor animals.
Yeah.
Without nobody. Yeah, there's some pictures.
Yeah. I made this little video from our trip. I think it snowed like 8 inches, something like that. It was cold. Debbie and I went on up there to LBL in camp. We didn't have a saw to cut wood. I had to go to where Mark and I primitive camp and dig that out of the snow so I could cut wood. But we were the only ones at LBL, except for a park ranger or something. And we camped in a campground that is known for activity. And we thought we're the only ones here. We're the only attraction in the whole place. So we're going to have something go on. And we had absolutely nothing go on. You know what kind of tracks those are?
Deer tracks.
Nope.
I can't see them.
Little rabbit tracks.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they are rabbit tracks.
Man, whenever I saw them, they were in line and they had, space. And I was like, oh, those are rabbit tracks. Okay. But, after a few days, if they melted out, they would look like a Bigfoot track.
Yeah.
Because of the way they're positioned, they're in line, all that. And that was about the most notable thing that we saw on the whole trip. We traveled all the roads at night, and we were the only ones that went down a lot of the roads. And you could see animal tracks all over them crossing the roads. Didn't see any Bigfoot tracks. So what would a Bigfoot do during a heavy winter storm?
Well, during the storm, I think they would take shelter under something, whether if it be a root ball, whether it be cedar trees, or an overhang on something, whether if it was a rock overhang. Because most animals will take shelter when bad weather hits.
Right.
And I feel like they have enough advance warning, more than what humans have, that they're prepared for it, that they've got a full belly.
Yeah.
And
I know I've went deer hunting a lot in these storms thinking, after the snow quit or whatever, the deer would be up and moving and trying to feed. I see very little whenever it's this bad moving until it starts melting off enough that they can get the water, they can get the food or whatever. But yeah, if I was a Bigfoot stuck out in the wilderness, I'd be looking for a pine thicket, a cedar thicket, or like I think Crazy Chris just put up, if I can find it, what she was told by an expert, that they go underground to their man caves. That's what I do.
Yeah.
I turn the heat up and turn on the TV and
put my feet up.
Yeah.
But
no.
Some places don't have caves.
That's right. But do they dig under a root ball or dig into a hillside? That's possible. But Mark and I would find them if they did that too much. Because every time we see a tree down, we go look under it and behind it.
Yeah.
So, but we've been told that they sit in cedar thickets and they strip off the cedar. Is it the bark or the needles and eat it? We were told that by either Bear or Kumbo. I can't remember who. Don't look at the chat, Mark. It'll distract you where you can't think.
What are you looking at?
Me? I'm looking at the notes you wrote down. I would say probably, I'm looking at the chat. Spencer says this all leads into, do they dig tunnels, live in caves, create shelters? And Spencer wouldn't come on here and talk about it.
Uh-oh.
Here's what Chris said. You told me that, Larry, one time. She got me on that one.
Got him.
Yep.
You know, I think real close to where you had to go get that bow saw, you know, just one ridge over, you know, we found that area that we thought was a like a kill zone.
Yeah.
Just because of the terrain. And then we found, I remember that would have been one of the best areas to take, you know, refuge in. That one tree that was blown over.
Yeah.
Man, it was like it was 4.5 foot wide in diameter. And the hole that it left and the way that the tree fell, it created a perfect shelter, whether if you wanted to use it for a hunting blind or if you wanted to use it, you know, to get out of a rainstorm.
Yeah. Well, that one, it looked like something had been up in that.
Yeah.
And we actually put a camera on it just to see what was going in there to use it, whether it was a bobcat, a coyote, or, well, from what we've been told lately, that black bear has been seen on the north end of LBL. So could have been bear. And there may be mountain lions up in that area too. You never know, because they're everywhere else, I think. There was another time we went into area whenever it was storming. Whenever we went with Kane and Eric, and Spencer was there and somebody else. But anyway, on the way in, it was snowing.
Yeah.
And it snowed that whole day, and then it turned to light rain the next day. It rained. We were there 3 days, I think.
Yeah.
And I think it rained 75% of the time, besides the little bit of snow we had. And this place had been very active the previous 2 times. And this time we went, we didn't have the same amount of activity, but we did have something enter the camp the last night, I think. But I don't know. It just seems to be the bad weather. You don't have much activity. And on the other hand, whenever it's perfect, there's no wind, temperatures are good, there's no rain, but there's a full moon. How much luck have we had whenever the weather's perfect with a full moon?
Not much.
Not much at all. And why you think that's so?
Well, now here we go with speculation and theories.
And conjecture.
Conjecture. But my thought is the brighter the ambient light is at night, such as like a full moon or close to a full moon, then the better we all see any creature that's out there. So my theory is, even though that I feel like that their vision is way better than ours, maybe they don't know how, maybe they think our vision is like their vision.
Right.
And so they're not going to come in as close on a full moon. And because they want to use that cover of darkness to their advantage.
Yeah.
Just like we would use any of the elements to our advantage if we were hunting.
I agree with that. In other words, I've seen a Sasquatch, a dog man, etc. They knew what they had never seen. That's one fact you can go by, is what you've seen. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Mark, would you quit being so hard on people? Spencer said that was a dang blizzard. No, what me and Debbie went out in was a blizzard. It was a little dustings what we had when we went.
Oh, man. You don't give that much credit, because it was what, it was a good 2 days before we even got there, you know.
Yeah. Do you see what Spencer's wanting you to talk about there?
Mark knocked out the fire to cook a steak. That steak was pretty good, wasn't it, Spence?
We did battle keeping a fire going, that's for sure. Whenever we go in the winter, it's always wet, wet, wet. And all we do is try to keep a fire going.
Yeah.
Somebody, I think it was Kurt Seltzer, said something that was interesting, and I'll never find it again. He failed to put it in capital letters, but I read it because me and Mark sat here and read the chat during our show. Mark, you can keep talking while I'm looking for it.
Okay.
Well, what he said is that, you know how Mammoth Caves is a big cave system that connects to other cave systems? And he was talking about what if a tribe lived in that cave system, and that's where they went during weather. You remember we had what's her name on that said she could mind speak with one. And they said they were in the cave system because the weather was getting bad.
Yeah.
Oh, 50 years with Bigfoot. Come on.
Yeah.
My brain's so. I worked all day, Mark, constantly, all day. And that's messed me up.
Well, I'm going to look it up.
Well, you look it up. I got it.
Janice
Carter. Yeah. Thanks a lot. Now, here's a question for you, Mark. You're out more than me. Has anybody noticed higher activity on overcast days?
That would be a good question for Shelley, because she does all of our documentation.
Well, where's Shelley at? She's still out gluing?
No, she's in the chat. She just told you it was Janice Carter.
Well, she's late. We already figured that out.
But that's why it's so important to document when you go out, because how many times, Larry, have we said that these outings that we go on, they just run together? I mean, you'll you'll think about something that happened. You'll go, well, was that in Arkansas or was it in Oklahoma? Yeah. Who was with us? But you can always go back to Shelley and say, look, this happened. And I think it was this outing, go and check and let's see if we can look for common denominators. That's why it would be really great if we had a great IT person that could crunch these numbers in a database.
We got one.
Who?
I don't know. It ain't me. I can barely get internet to run a podcast show, But you were talking about something, and I was going to make a comment, but what were you talking about before the IT person?
About Shelley that...
Oh, yeah. You were talking about how all the outings run together and stuff.
Yeah.
And you know how people like to, if you have something happen, like, for instance, the trackway, if we come up here talking about the trackway and we said that it was on October 30th that we found it and the temperature was 50 degrees and the moon phase was this, there's people that go and look at the moon phase and they look at the temperature. Well, he's lying. It was 52 degrees and the moon phase was 3/4 or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't even remember a date from last week, much less all that stuff. And you want to bank a whole story, a whole encounter or something on somebody's recollection of what day it was and what the moon phase was and the temperature? It's just crazy. But there's people out there that'll spend their whole day tracking down all that information so they can say he's a liar.
Yeah.
I can remember after that hammock incident where that one walked up on me and woke me up. I made that video and put out the date, a rough estimate of the month, knowing that we were there during an event that had a specific date, and I didn't bother looking at it. And my video says it was a month later or earlier or something. And you're like, no, we were there here. And I'm like, oh, who cares? But, I could have looked at the specific date and gave the day and everything, but I don't care. I'm more worried about what happened than the specific date and time and all that. That's what we got Shelley for. She keeps up with that. And I'm not writing a book anyway. I'm not going on no TV show. None of that. This is as far as I'm going right here. The bottom rung of the ladder of the Bigfoot community, along with everybody else.
Yeah. But they will. They will try to call you out quicker than you can say Daisy Lee in the box.
Yeah. It's crazy, man. Go find a Bigfoot, please. Or some evidence. Do you think weather plays a role in their reproductive cycle? Well, how many babies have been born since the COVID epidemic's been going on? I really don't know. Oh, here's a guy that would know before me. Dan Rickey. It's good to see him in there. I'm glad he's doing good. But I don't know, Spencer. That would just be an opinion. But I would have the opinion that if Big Boy's laid up with Big Mama in a cave or under a spruce tree or wherever, he's going to look at her a little bit longer and get that lust in his eyes, and probably so. I don't know. But if they're like an animal, they're on a cycle, and it's not going to play into it.
Yeah, like when they go into estrus, then there is a scent that is released that they can smell.
Right. If they're more animalistic, then it could be a cycle like the deer has a rut or turkeys have their mating season, whatever. If they're more humanistic, then they're going to look at mama laying under the spruce tree and say, hey.
What's your sign?
That's right. You sure do look pretty today. Cans wants to see Shelley's journal. I don't know what Cans is trying to figure out. Do you?
No, but she's got a whole stack of them. Those hardback composition books.
Yeah.
She has shown them on previous shows that we've had where we talk about documenting evidence.
Yeah.
So, I mean, she's got a stack of them.
That's one thing I wished I was a lot better at, is keeping up with specific things that happen. I know Kane's pretty good at it. He keeps up with all the structures he finds, tracks where he finds them and all that, and Eric too. But man, I just like going out there and experiencing it and getting a little adrenaline rush and going, man, can you believe that happened? Or why didn't anything happen? Whatever. But I don't know. I like the moment and just going with it, other than sitting there. All right, we just had a rock thrown. That was a rock, Mark.
Okay.
Did you hear that? That was a rock. I don't know. But do you think moon phase is important to activity? I know we talked about the full moon, that we get less activity. What about what's the dark moon? Is it the dark moon?
Dark side of the moon.
Yeah.
I think it does. I mean, because it affects animals, it affects the tide, and people that are way smarter than me could tell you what else it all affects.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do believe that the phases of the moon have a lot to do with it.
Well, here's what we've always talked about. We've always talked about the full moon. Whenever there's a full moon, the police officers, the ER nurses and doctors are always, oh no, you know, the crazies are coming out. We're going to have more business.
Yeah.
And we always say, why don't the Bigfoot act a little more aggressive or a little crazier and come in or stand there and stomp your campfire out or whatever, you know? And the full moon, we have not really had much, if any, activity at all. Vocal wise, whenever we go out and call and all that, on a full moon, you very rarely ever get any return vocal.
Yeah.
You may get a wood knock or something like that, but the return vocals, and I don't know, there may be other people that go out on a full moon and have all kinds of activity. That's why we say this is our opinion from our experience.
Yeah.
So,
well, I kind of like what Richie Evans just said. It basically causes him to chase cars and bite tires. He's
one of them. What is this that Cans is talking about? Whatever. Larry, last time we heard a whoop, you shrugged your shoulders and said, ready to go to the next spot.
I think that's a different show on examples of how we're so jaded.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's all we got. I know this other spot.
Well, there again, from our experience, whenever something like that happens, we know that it's pretty much it.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. Maybe that's what we think. Maybe if we stayed there another 10 or 15 minutes, one would come shake our vehicle or something. I don't know. Papa Craig C says, oops, I went out with Duke. It was cloudy and small moon and lots of vocals.
There you go.
All right. What about temperature?
Temperature has a lot to do with things. And
does it have a lot to do with things or a lot to do with us being out there?
Well, there's so much to that equation because we know that things can happen because of temperature.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily Bigfoot related. And I know it took us over a month to debunk what we thought we were picking up on a thermal.
Yeah.
Where we thought we had a tree picker watching us. And so how many people would have grabbed their flashlights and ran for the trucks, you know? So I think, I know I'm getting off subject here, but I think that's why it's important how you hear people say you need to go and take a picture afterwards. If you think that you captured something, if you're going back and reviewing, then you need to go back at that same day, time of the day, and take a picture from as close as you can remember at the spot that you were in to see if you can debunk it. Well, I think that's also another trait that we should use when it comes to temperature. And if we would have just gone back one time or two times and said, look, we're not picking this up. I think we had a Sasquatch, and then we would be talking about it right now.
Yeah.
And showing the thermal footage.
That's number 23, sighting 23.
Yeah. So, that is just important and that's why going back to like Shelley documenting everything and us reporting to her, what happened, when it happened, the weather, and even if these details don't even seem important, it's important to put them in there because who knows, 3 years later something might happen.
Right.
And then you go back and all of a sudden you start connecting the dots by looking at what happened a year and a half ago, what happened 3 years ago, what happened 5 years ago, under those same conditions.
I agree. Definitely. This case is going to be blown out of the water by somebody that takes meticulous notes and is out there a lot, such as Kane, or somebody that does similar stuff. And because you and I, we go quite a bit. I mean, we put a lot of effort into debunking that what we thought may have been a tree freaker, where most people would have went back one time and been like, well, it ain't there now, so it had to be one.
Yeah.
We went back on the third or fourth time before we ever figured out what it was.
We went back every weekend. I think it was the fourth weekend afterwards.
Yeah.
That the temperature dropped down to below freezing where it was that night. And there it was again.
Yeah. But I've concluded a long time ago that I'm not going to break the case on what this thing is or bring it to public knowledge or any of that. And I don't care. I'm just enjoying doing it.
Yeah.
But if somebody else does it, I will sing their praise.
Yeah.
Especially if they put in work that some of them do to go out daily and take notes and notice things that generally people don't notice. And I mean, even those people that they'll bring something out and make it public, even though they try to not let a lot of things out public, they'll get ridiculed by people that don't set foot in the woods a day a year, but they're on the computer all the time. That can't be so.
Yeah.
But the dudes out there daily noticing this stuff, but it can't be so because the one day a year dude that gets on the computer every day says it can't be so.
Yeah.
We're in a butt kicking circle. The poor fella in the middle that's trying to do something good is getting kicked in the butt by whoever he's presenting these things to. And he continuously is running around trying to justify what he knows is more fact than any of them ever have. And you're spinning your wheels in this community trying to get the consensus on your side because there's so many people that are out there to undermine you, and that's all they care to do is undermine.
Well, okay. I think let me first say this. It's important to share information. But two people that have been a mentor to both of us is Matthias Tipton and Kane Michael.
Yep.
Now, they have came to strong conclusions on a theory, and they will work that theory. They will work a theory for years until they get enough evidence that they believe that this is what's going on. Yep. And we have been fortunate to be on the inside of that circle where things were shared with us. And the reason they're shared is because these are the conclusions that they have came to because of the evidence, letting the evidence speak for itself.
Yeah.
And looking at it from every perspective and angle that they could. And then they want to bring in like guys like me and you and say, look, this is what we think's going on. Let's go out in the woods and let's see if something happens so that you can see what we're talking about. And that's something that I have a lot of respect for, because how many people will just drive down the road and see a natural bow like what Bama pointed out on our Sawdust Beast Facebook page and showed why it was a natural bow. Yeah. But how many people would have drove down that road and saw this bow, and then as soon as they had phone reception, they would have been posting the picture, talking about the evidence, and a booger did this, but yet they never got out of the vehicle and started doing circles and start basically tracking skills and finding that next sign. So that's just one example. I think it's, like I said, it's important to share, but it goes back to Carrie Arnold's quote. If you're going to share something, you need to be careful with how you share it and the way that you put it out there, because you do have influence on other people.
Yep, no doubt about that. All right, David Blaylock asks, what weather do you prefer to go out in?
We're coming up on it.
Yep.
That's what I prefer, and, my memory is not so bad. I can't remember Yeti Lake, how hot that was. And everybody had those little camping portable battery operated fans, and you just set it on your lap and just sat there and, 3 or 4 times a day just to try to get some relief, because you just been sweating for hours out there.
For my personal comfort, about 80 to 85 is the cutoff on the high temperature, and the low temperature, I don't really care.
Yeah.
As long as I'm out moving around a little bit, I can stay warm. And then at night, we can always cheat and throw a heater in the tent or whatever. And Mark knows as well as I do, those hammocks we have that are enclosed. We went out in 15, 20 degree weather. And once you zip that thing up, your body heat heats the inside of that hammock up, and it's not bad. You can make it.
Yeah.
And if you can't make it, you get up and you warm you up some chili and you let it fall on the ground and you eat it.
You know, there's been so many times that I have woke up in a tent and been shivering, even though that you've got a below 20 sleeping bag and you've got a Mr. Buddy in there, but the Mr. Buddies only last about 5 hours. And then when they go out and things start getting cold and you wake up and you're shivering. Yeah. But I have never woke up shivering in those hammocks that Cam Buckner gave us.
Yeah.
Never, not once.
We got to get him signed up for another outing and let him get us some more free stuff.
Yeah.
That was fun, though.
Yeah, that was a blast.
And out of all that we took him on, all he remembers is how dirty my microwave was. It's still kind of dirty, except Shelly saved me with that little cover. All right. Kirk Seltzer asks, how many nights have you two shared the same bag, those 15-degree nights? Well, once when Mark lost his bag out in the woods where he got turned around and he didn't have a sleeping bag, I let him have mine and I froze to death till about 4 in the morning. I said, all right, Mark, it's my turn.
Well, we wasn't in the same bag.
No, we wasn't.
Let's make that clear. We have stayed in the same tent.
Yeah.
But we haven't stayed in the same bag.
Yeah, not yet. We might do that next time. We take some at medicine, some at Fireball. No, we ain't either. No Brokeback Mountain for Mark.
No, I ain't jumping no fence.
Oh, me. Does anybody have any more questions like Spencer before he goes to bed? He's the one that put me up to this show. Thanks, Spencer. Mark, it's getting fall time.
Yeah. And we got things coming up. October's going to be busy.
I got to work.
And well, we always fit something in on the weekends.
Oh, yeah. Yep. That's right. I'm looking forward to it. It's been, we missed out on most of the spring because of me moving and all kinds of junk going on. But
yeah,
you've got several things coming up in October.
Yeah.
Well, one of them got canceled, didn't it? Didn't it?
I don't know.
The Florida trip?
Oh, it is. No, it's just postponed a little bit.
Rescheduled for a later date?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know. I heard it got canceled, but I didn't know. Uh-oh. Papa Craig C, how big around are the trees they push over near you? Mark, how big are the trees?
A lot of times you can't find the trees the next day.
They may be mimicking a tree going down. I don't
know.
I'm just
like that. But you can, if you're out there and you hear these trees, and it's funny how they do. You start hearing them crick a little bit, and then you start hearing the splinter.
Yeah.
And I know that one that me and Shelly heard when we were doing a day hike, and we were running parallel with a swamp area. That thing was huge. That's probably one of the loudest ones that I have ever heard. I don't know how big it was. I'm not going to even estimate it, but it was a mature tree.
Yeah. And they never found it.
No, it was in a swampy area. And that makes you think, what kind of tree was it? Was it a cypress tree?
Could have been. Barbara Locke says Bigfoot's just going to do whatever Bigfoot wants to when it wants to do it.
Yep.
That's true.
Yep. You can take that to the bank.
All right, Mark, I can't believe it, but we've made it 56 minutes. And I ain't rubbed my head yet. Just say I'm tired.
Papa, I would say a lot of them are at least 2 foot in diameter. And some of them I would estimate were 3 foot in diameter. Yeah. Because, it's not small trees. I remember when we were in the Appalachians and we parked the vehicles and we had to walk up. It wasn't a drive, but it was just like a dirt path that led to a graveyard. Yeah. And that was a pretty good size one. And things were coming from all around us because that tree was like to my back. And then next thing I know, something's being thrown at us, a limb from a different direction.
I can't put that up there.
I missed that one.
What Rick said. It's funny though. Oh. All right. So rundown on when to go have Bigfoot activity is not during a major storm and probably not on a full moon in our experience and our opinion. Don't mean it's 100% because you may go out there and have all kinds of stuff go on. Oh no. Here we go. Any common weather conditions for experiences activity you guys have had? Where's Shelly at?
Yeah.
The near moon, the dark moon, we generally have more vocals. The temperature range don't really matter that much. I've not really noticed the barometric pressure. I know whenever I go turkey hunting, I watch it because the turkeys gobble more whenever it's on the rise in the fall, and they will gobble some steady. But I've told Mark that 100 times and said we need to look at the barometric pressure to see on these nights we get more vocals if it's rising or falling or steady or whatever. And you know what me and Mark do? We go, where do you want to go eat breakfast in a couple hours? Oh, but anyway, the temperature, we've had warm weather like in the 80s at night, 70s had activity. We've had activity whenever it was probably 35, 40.
Yeah.
Whenever it got below that, we didn't have as much. And that don't mean anything other than that experience seems to be that. I'm just answering the question that was asked. This is not concrete, just what we have had happen. But I mean, anywhere in between there on temperature has been fine. But windy, of course, they can't hear you as well, and you can't hear them as well. They may be 20 yards from you, and you don't know it because tree limbs coming down, acorns, whatever. So saying that they're not as active on a very windy night may not be true. So I don't know on that. Because
and to be fully open about it, unless you're going out there on a daily basis, year round, like K. Michael, you can't really come to any type of conjecture on that.
Yeah.
Because most of the time we are out from the fall through the spring, and the summer months we're backing off, and we've had people like Shane Carpenter tell us that he has most of his activity during the summer months.
Yeah.
And that's something that we may need to suck it up and spend more time out in that heat out there.
That's why we went to Yeti Lake.
Yeah.
And then we said, forget this. We'll let Shane sweat all he wants to. But no, a lot of our opinion and experience is because we were there at the right time at the right place.
Yeah.
I mean, there's several people that have noted that they seem to be on a pattern, and some have said 30 days, some 40, whatever the area may dictate that they're traveling through. And on a Saturday night at Land Between the Lakes, we may just happen to be in a spot that they're coming through at that time, and it's just pure luck. So some of that plays into it. And I mean, it may happen that on a 95-degree day that the wind's blowing 20 miles an hour, that we didn't happen to be in the right spot at the right time for something to happen. So don't not go on a full moon. Don't not go when a major storm is coming through or just after it come through. I wouldn't be in the woods with tornadoes and hurricane wind and all that. You got to use common sense, of course, but that don't mean that something can't happen during the times that you're safe to be in the woods without getting hit in the head with a tree limb or whatever.
Yeah.
You put yourself in the right spot at the right time, and a Bigfoot ain't going to care if it's 100 degrees and 25-mile-an-hour winds. He's going to let you know he don't want you there, and he's going to growl at you, throw something at you, or whatever. So just because Mark hadn't had any activity on a full moon don't mean you can't. And just because I won't go out there and sweat in 100+ degrees don't mean that you can't go out there and take it and have all kinds of activity. So what I'm trying to say is any opportunity you have to get out there and look for these creatures and find evidence, go.
Yeah, because you're not going to find it at home.
Nope, they're not going to come knock on the door. That's what I say. David asked, are we coming out there soon? As soon as you get me at elk tag, we're headed out there. No, I think I may try to get out that way next year. And I may invite Mark and I may not. It just depends on how he acts between now and then. And Shelly and everybody. Is there anything else you want to conclude with, Mark? Because I just accidentally rubbed my head and I think it's getting late.
Yeah. No, I don't think so. Just be kind to one another. And if somebody expresses an opinion or theory that's different to yours or different than what somebody that you have respect for and follow says, don't be caustic, about it. Just take it with a grain of salt, and who knows? They might be right. There may be some element of truth in that.
Yeah.
So just be kind.
There's more than one way to skin a catfish, and all that matters is get it skinned, battered up, and fried. Ain't that right?
That's right.
I'm getting hungry. All right, folks. I know there's a lot more that we could talk about on weather-related things, but it's past my bedtime, and I'm through talking. So we will see y'all Thursday night on Beast TV. We got another great guest coming up that has a lot of great evidence, and they're on vacation right now, so something may happen. So I'm not going to say their name till we hook up Thursday night and have a great show. So we will see y'all there.
And don't forget about WTF on tomorrow night.
Yep. What time? It's on 9. Tuesday, it's at 9.
It is at 9 Central, 10 Eastern.
Don't worry about the rest.
Yeah.
Then on Thursday night, it comes on at 10 on Thursday night, Central Time.
Right after we go off.
Right. So definitely go check out Mogs. He's always got a good show. Funny stuff goes on. Funnier than me and Mark. Ain't that right?
Yeah.
All right, folks. Y'all have a good night, and thanks for joining in tonight. We'll see y'all.
Night, footers.